Next, we have item number 14, Finance and Budget. Consider reappropriating the school's fiscal year 2015 carryover funds.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Mary Parat, Chief Financial Officer. The school board has requested allocation of unspent funds from FY15. In February, the board deferred action on this request, and the board received a report from Dr. Benson on this matter earlier this afternoon. The funds requested are allocated to one-time uses consistent with the county's financial policies. They total $9.7 million and are as follows. $1,150,000 was included in the current year budget for one-time costs. $1.5 million has been set aside in the newly created Schools Capital Projects Reserve. $2 million is included in the adopted CIP to help fund the Moncure Elementary School rebuild, consistent with the new educational specifications which were previously endorsed. $836,000 would allow the already approved bus purchases to be made using cash instead of debt, and $2,150,000 would repay the funds recently borrowed for the school's new financial system. Additionally, the school board is requesting appropriation of $1,850,000 for infrastructure projects, a list of which is included in your package, and also $261,673 for driver's ed vehicles and school furniture. This request is consistent with the county's adopted CIP and budget. It's consistent with the county's financial policies of using one-time funds for one-time uses, and also it supports our bond rating strategy by allocating cash to capital projects and reducing our reliance on debt. Staff recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Yes. I have a question. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, please.
The list of items that are going to be used for, is it in our board package? Maybe it says for maintenance and capital needs and operations and technology. Is there a list of those items in here and I missed them?
Ms. Baumke, the list of infrastructure projects is the last page of your agenda package. Okay. I do have a hard copy here if you'd like to refer to that. But it includes things such as replacing generators, gym roofs,
oh, I see.
Cooling towers.
It's really small, but okay. All right, you can move on to something else.
Ms. Sellers?
When we discussed shared services, did we bring up just the finance? We did bring up combining finance departments.
It was part of the report. There's been some discussion back and forth. I mean, it's sort of a there are a lot of different ways that could happen,
right?
But this is actually their financial system that they use. The system that the county has is not helpful to the schools for payroll and some of their other. It doesn't do anything in terms of the personnel tracking they need. So the schools did purchase another system that not only handles the financial issues but also is more tailored to schools in terms of payroll and personnel and the certifications that they need to track.
My concern is more the timeline of when we start those discussions, because just doing benefits took us, what, 1.5 years? So let's move. If we could get the two, and Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is up to you, but get this joint schools committee or ARP committee with the school board together to at least discuss bringing this up.
Yep. I'm not the chair of that committee, but I could.
Well, I was. I don't think we've met.
And I am, and
Mr.
I have talked to several people, and I think what we want to do is bring up that topic for the next FAB meeting, shared services, particularly in finance and budget, and get right on that. And because of this transfer of funds back here, and we're not ready for the shared services quite yet. That's going to take a while, I know, but yet what I would like to see at this point is one, for that to be on the next FAB agenda. Perhaps if the school board's finance and budget committee would like to join us for that discussion, I think that would be productive. And I would like to have a resolution to the effect that defer action today based upon what we discussed there on how we're going to go about that and the schedule for implementing that shared service. I'd like I know we can't do it quickly, certainly not this next fiscal year, but I would think a target of FY18 to do this with responsibility for the budget in the county government administration.
So did I hear a motion to defer pending some sort of FAB meeting, or are you just thinking out loud at this point? Okay.
What I wanted to do was defer so that we could have the meeting and then the staff can come up with a resolution after that gets vetted a little better onto the exact language, maybe some time schedules and the mechanics of it. We're probably going to need a school board resolution agreeing to this. All those things need to come into place.
Second.
Okay, so we have that motion and it's been seconded for discussion. I was wondering if the superintendent could speak to if there's further delays, what kind of effect that has on these items that are currently being listed for use. Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm guessing there's an impact.
Well, there is, in that we have budgeted for next year, assuming that we would be buying down our debt. And so there's that consideration. There's the timing for the summer infrastructure projects. And I think it's going to take some time for us to work through what the potential might be in terms of shared services in the area of finance, and some research into where that is working well, because I think that's part of what we need to do, is take a look at other divisions in Virginia where that is a shared service to some degree, and what about that works well for them, and how might we be able to capitalize on lessons learned in other locations. We continue to make payments on the new ERP, and there's debt associated with that as well. So multiple implications.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, part of me is concerned about this particular motion. Number one, I've requested from staff not only org charts of what we currently have on both sides of the finance. So Dr. Benson, we need your org chart. And also, so that would be the as-is. And in anticipation of looking at the 2B, I believe staff's working on a project in anticipation of our next FAB meeting to several different jurisdictions that already have that combined. So giving us several different options and looking at what the 2B could look like from a combined perspective. My concern in delaying at least certain portions of this carryover is that we're sitting on cash while we're spending money on interest. I mean, these are purchases that have already been made. We're paying interest on them, and while we sit on cash in the bank, financially, that doesn't make sense to me. And so if we have the cash in the bank, and at least let's pay off the debt that's identified in this particular resolution, so we as a jurisdiction are no longer unnecessarily paying interest. In anticipation, if you want to delay the other infrastructure projects, I'm open to that, but I really think we need to pay off the debt if we're sitting on cash.
Okay, other comments on the motion to defer, Ms. Bomke?
I'm having a hard time. I agree with Ms. Maurer on that motion. How do some of these purchases, though, have to do with whether or not we combine our finance departments or not?
I'm not sure who could answer that question, if anybody.
What was the question?
The question is, deferring this spending, how does that tie into combining finance departments?
Well, first of all, you don't have a second to the motion, and I'll second that. Oh, you seconded, Paul. I'm sorry. I apologize. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I think what I'm looking for here is to make sure that, and I know the doctor's taking a lot of precautions. He's got a lot of stuff going on, and I appreciate that. But I feel an obligation to the taxpayers to make sure we, as the governing body, are doing something to make sure that this never happens again. Even though I don't think it will, but we, as a governing body, because I'm getting asked about it everywhere I go. What about the 8.3? What about this? What about? So I think we need to do something to governing body. Now, we may not want to go as far as Jack said, and if you'll accept a friendly amendment, rather than tying this to the FAB meeting and tying it back, if we could just delay it till our next meeting and have the county administrator come back with a resolution saying, okay, we're going to release the money, but you're going to, at some point, turn over the finances to the county as a joint service. And then we could work from there. So that would be my recommendation, if Mr. Cavalier accepted.
For them to agree to that would require a board resolution from the school board.
That's a good point.
We can't do that today.
But they're meeting on Thursday.
They have a meeting Thursday.
I have another potential, maybe middle ground, friendly amendment, since I can't make a substitute motion. One of the things this board asked me to go back and ask for was, we are using the same audit firm finally, which is a great thing. But the other thing we really wanted to see, along with our staff, is next year we want to have one financial statement. And I think that gets us at least a good step forward to understanding that the auditor is looking at everything as a whole. It's not shared financial services, and that does need to be the ultimate goal. I agree with Jack on that. But if we could have language to approve this, subject to, and I'm looking to the lawyer here, subject to the school board acting in the future to agree to a joint financial statement, not just same auditor, that might get us part of shared services, part of the finances now on the same page, and then we should absolutely continue to have those meetings for next year to see if we can have the departments combined. I don't know if we can do that as part of an appropriation or not.
Mr. Chairman, my concern with that would be, if the school board doesn't agree, how does the county get the money back? I'm not sure if that's
We're not giving the money unless they agree to a joint statement. If they don't, we'll have to take another action, because that action could not be completed on their end.
Will there be a time limit associated?
We could
with
do
the
that if that
action?
makes you comfortable.
It would make me more comfortable.
And I think the chairman's had a chance to talk to the board, at least informally. I don't think they've had a formal discussion yet. They were going to do it at FAB.
I think there was some general discussion concerning lots of things are happening in the financial area that we should look at. But to say that I can say that my board is ready to say everything should be handed over, we are right in the middle.
That's not my question.
Well, that's what's being said.
No,
So I'm
the new amendment is that we would have one financial audit statement, which is what you and I spoke about,
Right.
not taking over and all that stuff.
And that-
What I'm asking right now is your board close to a decision on agreeing with us and our staff that we should have one statement? Or could you do that in a short order to get this resolved?
We can do that. I believe we were uncomfortable, or as I spoke with you, of coming forward with that while we were in the middle of an audit, the external audit. We wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable having it now combined, because it just didn't seem clear to me that that's where we were. I think that there is some, we have not had this as a formal agenda item, I will say, because I sort of felt like we had sort of resolved it and moved on based on the, one of the funding resolutions that you all passed. I thought it had in there the amount for the combined audit, but maybe I'm incorrect.
Right. Well, I'm definitely adding a new wrinkle to it. I think the friendly amendment I'm suggesting is we will release the carryover funds if the school board agrees that we need to do one financial statement. I think that's attainable in the amount of time we have. The other is not, in my personal opinion. So that's why I'm offering that, and I was just curious from your perspective.
I can see.
Is that something that's going to take you 5 months to decide, or 2 weeks?
Well, I can see if we can add it to our meeting on Thursday night, at least for discussion.
And the motioner may not entertain.
Right.
What's the motion?
Friendly.
I'm just concerned about the broader, we haven't done a lot of study into seeing how it will impact ours, and I know our benefit side is complicated, having just watched it through the benefit side. But, I can see what we can do for, I can add something Thursday night.
My concern is that the shared services is an absolute must-do now. And I don't think we can wait any more on that we have to move toward that. Gary says he's getting beat up. I'm getting beat up. All of us are hearing from our constituents about the $8.3 million. That's not going away. And, what has been done about it? Well, I know Dr. Benson's put in some new controls, but that doesn't undo what's happened, and we need to look at, how we want to address this in the future. And I think most of us up here want to address it by a shared service, and the fact that in and of itself saves money for this county as a whole is a positive. So I would say, if we can get a deferral on this, with the one exception of the couple projects that are repayment of the debt things that we don't want, no sense paying extra interest on, I'd be okay with that, as Dr. Benson alluded to. But I think we have to come to terms with this shared services agreement, and it's going to require an action on the school board's part as well as this board, and we have those, we have time now to iron out those wrinkles and to make that happen, and so I would be okay amending my original motion to that at this point.
Do we have a number? I mean, I think he's trying to carve out some of the things. There's 7 lines there. We'd have to come up with the 7 that you're talking about.
It looks like 2.15 and the 836,000
Okay.
are items, so that's about $3 million.
And the board could also consider the $2 million for Moncure. Yeah, I don't, that's not quite as time sensitive, but that is part of the funding.
No, but because it affects our CIP, understand? So that they're, whatever that is, around $5 million. So about half of it. We could release now and then hold the rest until we have better resolution on the shared service.
Yeah, Mr. Cavalier, of the items, the $1,150,000 actually has already been acted on because that was part of the current year budget. The $1.5 million is already in the capital projects reserve. There's no requested appropriation, so there's really no action on that either. Taking action today on the $2 million, the $836,000, and the $2,150,000 would handle all of the items related to debt, and then that would leave still for future consideration the $1,850,000 and the $261,000 roughly.
So,
Mr. Chair.
About hold back of $2 million approximately then.
so your motion wouldn't actually be a deferral now. It would be an approval of only those items, holding back the 1.85 and the 261,000. Is that kind of the new motion?
Yes.
And the seconder is okay with that? Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Discussion on that motion. Ms. Mauer.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, because from a good financial stewardship perspective, what I would hate to do is see us get into a wrinkle in the next fiscal year. So thank you very much, Mr. Cavalier. I want to ask Mr. Romanello a question. According to state law, we don't need to get agreement from the school board to combine finances. Is that correct?
I'd have to check it, but that's certainly my recollection.
So my point to that is that it is completely incumbent upon this board to ram that through. And my concern with holding, we can do it. We can make a motion. We can make it happen. I think we are holding Dr. Benson here. We're punishing Dr. Benson for stuff that happened before him. He is our whistleblower. And I agree, we need to do something about it. And one of the things that we did do was, as evidenced in our last budget, we believed in his budget and we believed in his numbers. And so we are developing a good relationship with the school board. And I think if we approach shared services in a friendlier, work together manner, and I have gotten all sorts of indication that they are supportive of this and willing to work with us, I think we're going to get a lot further along than if we go from a hostile perspective. And so that's my opinion. I do appreciate, however, us at least authorizing the pay down of the debt. But this board can make it happen without the school board. It'll just be a lot easier if we do.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Sellers was next. Do you still have comment?
No, I'll listen.
Okay, Mr. Snellings.
Could we hear from the county attorney on that? Is that state law that this board can dictate that?
Mr. Snellings, as far as I know, my office hasn't looked at that in the recent past, so we can look into it and get back with this board.
Okay.
Mrs. Bonke?
I remember having that conversation with a former supervisor when I was on the school board, and I was told that that is state code. But anyway, on another note, if we hold back some of this other money that has to do with funding for summer projects, you know, it is time sensitive for their facilities department to get a lot of their summer projects done. That is their window of opportunity to make things happen during the summer. So hopefully they will be able to pass this resolution very quickly. I think also we need to give Dr. Benson the benefit of the doubt that he came from Albemarle, and if I remember correctly, they are a county that has shared services. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, thank you. So I feel like we need to not hamper his strings and give him that, he is the leader for the school division, and let's let him lead.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, please.
in light of those discussions and from what our legal counsel has stated, I would then like to further revise my amendment to to give back all the money to the schools, and then we'll take up the shared services on our own, since we obviously don't need school board concurrence on that. But but bear in mind that is the #1 priority for the Finance and Budget Committee at the next meeting, and will be until we get it done.
I accept that.
Okay. Any discussion on the newest motion?
All right, I'm gonna finally make my
Ms.
comment.
Sellers?
I'm glad we're gonna give it all back. I was hoping I didn't have to make a substitute motion. Just like, you know, all of us have had the paper call us to say, you know, what's it gonna take to get us to move forward? And I don't think for any of us, it's whether we trust Dr. Benson. It's never been anybody's discussion. I think the hesitation on our part, at least on my part, is showing to the public that we are doing our due diligence and holding people accountable. And it's been a tough year for you guys, 6 months for you guys. So I agree with Wendy. I don't want to go down a nasty path, and would rather do it this way.
Any other comments? Okay. Couple weeks ago, we were ready to approve this, and this board wanted me to go fight for that single audit statement. And I really feel like we should insist upon that, but if the will of the board is not to do that, then I will be in support of turning back all the carryover funds.
Mr. Chairman, I'll accept that friendly amendment now.
The seconder's fine with it. So we made progress. We have one firm looking at both sets of books. So what we're trying to get to is one audited statement with the activity statement separate, because the activity funds we do not want to get into those. That's been a staff recommendation for as long as I've been here, and I believe this is a good time for that. So I appreciate you adding that. Any discussion on that friendly amendment? Okay, please cast your votes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Clarification?
Once it's appropriated, it's gone.
So we can't appropriate subject to, like I asked?
I'm familiar with categorical appropriations. I'm not familiar with subject to appropriations. I mean, I'm not your attorney. If it's the will of the board to ensure that the school board does, that the county and the schools do one audit, I would recommend that you send that message loud and clear to the school board today and defer action until May 17th. I don't know that once the appropriation is made that we can, other than through your political influence, that we can compel it.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bauer?
Mr. Romanella, can we hold it pending a resolution from the school board supporting the single audit, so they can go back to their school board on Thursday and we don't have to wait 2 weeks? Okay.
We don't know. We don't know. We'd have to look into that to give you a specific answer. My experience has been once it's appropriated that it's
Right. So if we defer, that'll give you 2 weeks to give us an answer on that. Okay. And potentially the school board, I think, just got the message, right? So they have time to go back and take action and maybe make it a moot point. If they take action that they're in support of a single financial statement, then it becomes an easy one for us in 2 weeks. Okay.
Okay, so now the motion is to defer 2 weeks.
And the amendment, and I will accept that amendment.
Any discussion on the current motion to defer? Let's take a vote, please. Cast your votes. Tally the votes. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Okay, still under new business, item number 15, planning and zoning, consider waiver request of Winding Creek Owner LLC regarding time limitations to file new rezoning application in the Garrisonville district.